Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Dark Magician Dinomorphia deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Meli. And this deck is an extremely powerful deck with just how well Dark Magician and Dinomorphia work together. Being able to end on cards like Rexsturm and Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is just absolutely insane to win games. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Again, your name is description for any single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. And definitely give Meli some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Dark Magician, the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense. This card is a great 2-of in the build, but you really only need 2 copies of this card, because you're going to be using this card for a lot of combos in the deck, but you can recycle this card extremely easily, which is why we just play 2 copies in the deck. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Black Dragon. Red Eyes Black Dragon is a definite 1-of in the build to be able to use with Red Eyes Fusion to step into Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. This card is very important for the deck, but again, you only need a single copy of this card and 2 copies of Dark Magician because you don't want to play too many bricks in the deck. And these cards are just really good to help you step into Dragoon and use the Dark Magician for a lot of Dark Magician related cards. We then play 3 copies of Magician Souls. Magician Souls is a draw package in the deck, which is just amazing. This card has the ability that you can send up to 2 spells and trap cards from your hand or face up from field to graveyard to draw that many cards, which helps us dig into the deck. It also has the ability that this card's in your hand. You can send a level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard to either special summon this card or send to the graveyard to special summon Dark Magician from your graveyard, which is usually what you're sending to the graveyard to be able to summon out this card anyways. So this card is a really good 3-of in the build, plus it's searchable off your copy of Illusion of Chaos, giving you more options to be able to get to this card, but this card is amazing for the build as a 3-of. We then play just 2 copies of Magician's Rod. Magician's Rod is a definite 2-of in the build, but you only need 2 copies of this card because you usually want to summon out your copy of Therizia as your normal summon, but this card is still really good to be able to search out cards from the deck. Because when this card is normal summon, you can add a spell or trap card from your deck to your hand that specifically lists the card Dark Magician in its text from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability to be able to search out a bunch of different cards from our deck to our hand using this card's ability. We then play 2 copies of Illusion of Chaos. Illusion of Chaos is really good as a 2-of in the build, as this card has the ability that you can actually reveal this card in your hand to add Dark Magician or a non-ritual monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. Then place a card from your hand on the top of the deck, which is a great ability to search out cards like Magician Souls or Magician's Rod directly from your deck to your hand using this card. Plus, Illusion of Chaos is searchable off your copy of Preparation of Rites, which is amazing to be able to instantly get to this card with that card, basically playing 4 copies of this card in the build. We're then playing 3 copies of Dinomorphia Therizia. This card is the best normal summon in the entire deck, and just by normal summoning out this card to your side of the field, you're basically turning your entire Dinomorphia package on in the deck by using this card to be able to set your copy of Frenzy to your side of the field. Because if this card is normal or special summon, you can set a Dinomorphia trap directly from your deck to your spell and trap card zone, which is a really cool ability just to instantly get your copy of Frenzy on your side of the field, so you can make your copy of Rexsturm extremely easily, which is just amazing. This card is definitely a 3-of in the build and one of the most important cards in the deck to help you get to your copy of Frenzy. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is a definite 3-of in the build, just to basically stop your opponent from touching the deck. This card is very good in the build and is a definite 3-of. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is very important in this deck as a 1-of, basically just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play a single copy of Dark Magical Circle. Dark Magical Circle is great for consistency in the deck, because when this card is activated, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then reveal a Dark Magician or a spell or trap card that specifically lists the card Dark Magician among the cards that you reveal, and then add it to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to do because you just get to look at those top 3 cards and add one of those cards to your hand is just really big. Then you place the remaining cards on top of your deck in any order, which is a great effect to be able to use with this card. So you know exactly what you're going to draw into. And if Dark Magician is normally special summon it to your field, except during the damage step, you can actually target one card your opponent controls and banish it, which is a really cool ability just to be able to spot remove cards off the field. And the best thing about this card is since it says look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you don't even have to show them to your opponent, which is super cool. We then play 2 copies of Soul Servant. Soul Servant is definitely a 2-of in the build, and this card is super helpful because it lets you place a card on top of your deck from your hand, deck, or graveyard that is Dark Magician, or specifically lists the card Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl in its text, except another copy of Soul Servant, which is a great effect to get the exact card that you need on top of your deck. Also, this card combos really well with your copy of Dark Magical Circle because this card gives you a draw because you can manage this card from the graveyard to draw cards equal to the number of Paladinia monsters Dark Magician enter Dark Magician Girl with different names on the field or in the graveyard, but you're only ever going to get one draw off this card in this build because we're only playing Dark Magician in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Preparation of Rites. Preparation of Rites is definitely a 2-of in the build because this card helps us search out our copy of Illusion of Chaos directly from our deck to our hand. We then play 3 copies of Red Eyes Fusion. Red Eyes Fusion is very important in this deck to help us step into our copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. It's just a really awesome card that basically just gives us the ability to instantly step into a copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon by sending a copy of Dark Magician and Red Eyes Black Dragon directly from our deck to the graveyard, which is amazing for this card to be able to do. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card is really amazing just to help you dig into the deck for cards like Therizia or Red Eyes Fusion, which is just really amazing, especially since you don't need every single card in your extract. This card is just really helpful in the build. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Eternal Soul. Eternal Soul is really good in this deck as a 1-of, but you only need a single copy of this card, and has the ability every Dark Magician in your monster zone is unaffected by your opponent's card effects, and if this card that's face up on the field leaves the field, destroy all monsters that you control, which is a big downside of this card, but when it's on your side of the field, you get to special summon Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard, which is a really cool effect. We then play 2 copies of Ferret Flames. Ferret Flames is great to be able to work with your Dinomorphia package in the deck, because this card can board wipe your opponent, because if the combined attack of all face-up monsters that your opponent controls is higher than your life points, make your opponent shuffle face-up monsters that they control into the deck, their choice, except monsters with 0 attack, so that the combined attack of the remaining monsters that they control becomes less than or equal to your life points, which you can very easily in this deck drop your life points down to 1,000, which is really crazy for this card to be able to do, to basically just drop your life points down really low and then use this card to be able to deal with your opponent's field. We then play 3 copies of Dinomorphia Frenzy. This card is insane in the build because it has the ability during your opponent's main phase, you pay half your life points to be able to fusion summon a Dinomorphia monster from your extract using only 1 monster from your deck and 1 monster from your extract as fusion material, which is really crazy to be able to step into something like a copy of Kentrogena, then use Kentrogena's ability to be able to banish this card to copy its effect, to then step into your copy of Rex turn, which is amazing because you're pretty much going to set yourself up for this card right off the bat, which is amazing. And when you activate this card, or when your opponent activates a card or effect, while your life points are 2,000 or less, you can manage this card from your graveyard and you take no effect damage from your opponent's card effects this turn, which is great to be able to protect yourself because you're going to have low life points in this build. We then play 3 copies of Dinomorphia Intact. Intact is really good as a 3-of in the build, just to make sure your plays are going to go through, because when a monster effect is activated, while you control a Dinomorphia card, pay half your life points to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster, which is a really cool effect to be able to just basically stop your opponent from using a monster effect to basically make sure that your cards are going to go through. Plus, this card is a counter trap, making it so that you're basically going to be able to stop anything, which is amazing. Speaking of counter traps, we also play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment is amazing because you pay half your life points and basically say no to anything, which is super cool for this card to be able to do, to make sure that you're going to get your plays to go through. And this card is really good to be able to combo with cards like Intact to basically protect your cards like Rexterm and your copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Dinomorphia Rexsturm. Rexsturm is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card is basically a one-sided skill drain that your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters that they control that have attack greater than or equal to your life points. And you only use the following effects this card once per turn. That quick effect, you can pay half your life points, and the attack of all monsters that your opponent currently controls will become equal to your life points until the end of the turn, basically making this card a one-sided skill drain, which is insane. We then play 2 copies of Kentragina. Kentragina is definitely a 2-of in the build because this card is just super helpful in the deck. It has the ability that it loses attack points equal to your life points, but during the main phase, quick effect, you can pay half your life points to be able to banish a Dinomorphia normal trap from the graveyard and copy its effect when it would be activated, which is insane for this card to be able to do, to basically just copy the effect of your copy of Frenzy. So you make this card first, then you make your copy of your Rexsturm, which is amazing. We then play 2 copies of Stealthburgia. Stealthburgia is really good as a 2-of in the deck, but you don't summon it all that often in this build, because we only play a couple of different Dinomorphia traps, so this card is really good in the deck as a 2-of, but usually I'm using this card for Prosperity or to be able to send to the graveyard for Frenzy. We then play 2 copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is amazing as a 2-of in the build, because this card is a walking negate, cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects, and it can pop cards on the field doing burn damage to your opponent, which is just absolutely crazy. This card plus Rexsturm is usually game, which is just really cool to be able to do, because it's basically just going to do burn damage to your opponent because you're putting 2 vanillas into this card, so it's really easy to be able to do burn damage. And this card plus Rexsturm is just really hard for your opponent to deal with. We then play a single copy of Psychic in Punisher. It's very easy to make in this build with your copy of Ash Blossom plus a level 8 monster. So this card is just really good because while your life points are less than or equal to your opponent's, which is going to be always, this synchro summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. And once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points and then target 1 monster that you control and 1 card your opponent controls and banish them. And at the start of the battle phase, you can make this card gain attack equal to difference in your life points and your opponent's life points, which is insane to make this card absolutely massive. We then play a single copy of Typhon because it's so easy to make in just about every single deck. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus because you can make it on top of your copy of Typhon later, so this card is just really good in the deck overall. We then play a single copy of Access Code because it's very easy to make in this build and pops multiple cards on the field. We then play a single copy of Selene. Selene is very good to be able to step into your copy of Access Code, and then finally we play a single copy of the Dark Charmer because Dark Charmer is really easy to step into your copy of Selene and then Selene into Access Code so you can OTK your opponent. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Dinomorphia Dark Magician, you definitely should give this deck a try because it's super fun. It's insane how consistent this deck is, and it's amazing to be able to just summon out your copies of Rexsturm and your copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon to just win games. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.